Chapter 4988 had never had any rules. The granny broker wanted to reject her, but when she saw Yun Chujia's cold gaze, she swallowed her words. She thought to herself, if worst comes to worst, she would just give this old and ugly Granny Lu to Spring Fragrance Restaurant for free. At this moment, the granny broker thought of a crucial question. Miss, cousin, where is her indenture? The granny broker was an old fox. This Nanny Lu was a servant. If she did not have the indenture, Spring Fragrance Restaurant would never dare to accept it. Yun Chujio curled her lips. Follow me. I will look for First Aunt to get her indenture. When Nanny Lu heard this, her eyes flashed with joy. First Madam would definitely not give the indenture to this slut. She had done so many things for First Madam. First Madam would definitely protect her. Yun Chujio saw the joy in Nanny Liu's eyes and did not say anything. She only asked Hong Ling and the other two to follow her to Zhuangshi's courtyard. Zhuangshi had only just learned that Yun Chujio had not only returned safely, but that her ancestor had not punished her. She immediately panicked. Before she could send someone to stop Nanny Lu, something had happened in the laundry room. Lan Luoshan comforted her, Mother, you don't have to worry too much. Nanny Lu doesn't have the guts to betray you. If the worst comes to the worst, we can just abandon her. No matter how much Yun Chujio can do, she's still an orphan. She doesn't have the guts to do anything to you. Zhuangshi thought about it and it made sense. In the Lan family's 3 branches, other than Lan Di Mao, who would dare to do anything to her? Even that bitch Jia sure didn't dare to do anything to her on the surface. Therefore, when Yun Chujio brought Nanny Lu and the others to the entrance of the courtyard, she was directly shut out. Miss Cousin, eldest madam is not feeling well and will not see any guests. If you have something to do, we can talk about it tomorrow. Zhuangshi's maid Lian Qiao said with a fake smile. Yun Chujio reached out and slapped her. Brainless fool. Am I a guest? Get lost. Lian Qiao was stunned by the slap. Before she could react, Yun Chujio had already brought people into the courtyard. The maid at the door wanted to stop her, but she was frightened by Yun Chujio's cold gaze and did not dare to move. After all, Lian Qiao's face was still swollen. Zhuangshi saw Yun Chujio barge in and could not help but slap the table. Yun Chujio, do you still think highly of me as your aunt? Don't you know that you need to report to the elders when you enter their courtyard? Lan Luoshan said softly from the side, That's right, little sister Jiu. You shouldn't have barged in here. If word gets out, it'll be said that you have no rules. Yun Chujio kicked Nanny Lu to the ground and then said with a faint smile, Rules? I've never heard of those 2 words. Am not in the mood to play any tricks with you. I'll give you 2 choices. One is to voluntarily give me the indentures of Nanny Lu, Hong Ling, and the other 2. The other is to give me 1 million high-grade spirit stones as compensation for mental damage. The other choice is to force you to do this. Hearing that, Zhuangshi picked up the teacup and threw it on the ground. Yun Chujio, are you trying to rebel? I think you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You're just an orphan girl from a low-grade continent. What right do you have to yell at me here? Yun Chujio took out cheap one from her storage ring and said casually, with this sword in my hand. I'll count to 3. If you don't do it, I'll kill this Granny Lu. Chapter 4989, Thank you, Aunt Zhuangshi was furious. You, how dare you? Pfft. Yun Chujio stabbed Granny Liu's throat with her sword. Granny Liu's fat body immediately fell to the ground. Zhuangshi had never dreamed that Yun Chujio would actually dare to kill Granny Lu. Her expression immediately changed and she shouted, Men! Men! Quickly, men! There were many guards outside the courtyard. They immediately rushed into the courtyard, and one of them, a small leader, brought a few people into the house. Zhuangshi saw the few guards and instantly felt confident. She said viciously, Take down this Yun Chujio who has offended her superiors. Before the small leader could do anything, he heard Yun Chujio say coldly, if you don't want to die, then get the hell out of here. Otherwise, I'll kill all of you. The leader was Zhuang Shi's trusted aide, so he naturally would not be threatened by Yun Chuzhou. He was at the 6th level of the extreme spiritual realm, so he did not put Yun Chuzhou, who was at the 3rd level of the extreme spiritual realm, in his eyes at all. He laughed sinisterly. Miss Cousin, I advise you not to resist. Otherwise, it would not be good if I don't show any mercy. As he spoke, he walked towards Yun Chuzhou, wanting to subdue her. However, the moment he got close to Yun Chuzhou, he stumbled. Yun Chuzhou's sword lightly slashed, and the head of the leader fell to the ground. Zhuang Shi screamed, and the other maids in the room also screamed. Yun Chuzhou curled her lips and took a few steps forward. This is not my fault. He came here by himself. Aunt, my patience has a limit. Do you agree to my conditions or not? Zhuang Shi looked at the blood-dripping sword in Yun Chuzhou's hand. She was both angry and afraid. Just as she was about to get the other guards to attack together, Lan Luoshan smiled and said, Mother, just do as little sister Jiao said and return Hong Ling and the other two's indentures to them. Then, give little sister Jiao 1 million upper-grade spirit stones. We are a family. Why do you have to make things so unpleasant? Zhuang Shi looked at Lan Luoshan in confusion, but she still said, All right, then do as Luoshan said. Then, thank you very much, First Aunt. Yun Chuzhou said with a smile. Zhuang Shi gritted her teeth and got someone to give the indentures of Hong Ling and the others to Yun Chuzhou. She also transferred 1 million upper-grade spirit stones to Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou nodded with satisfaction. First Aunt, Sister Luoshan, sorry for the disturbance. I will take my leave now. Oh right, let me remind you. If you don't want to die, don't provoke me in the future. Otherwise, I will make the Zhuang family die with you. Zhuang Shi was so angry that she almost fainted. She said to Lan Luoshan, Luoshan, why did you stop me? This bitch is courting death. Mother, I just thought of something. She caused a huge disaster, but she didn't receive any punishment. There must be something wrong. If we rashly fight with her, we might incur the displeasure of our grandfather or even our ancestors. That's why I stopped you. Zhuang Shi thought for a moment. What you said makes sense. But, are we just going to let it go? Let that bitch humiliate us like this? That bitch is cooking by herself now. We don't even have the chance to poison her. I'm so angry. Mother, we're not the only ones who hate her. The people from the eldest and second branches also hate her. As long as I instigate her a little, someone will help us take care of her, Lan Luoshan said viciously. Chapter 4990. After Yun Chuzhou brought Hong Ling and the others out of Zhuang Shi's courtyard, she said to the granny broker, You almost took my people away today. Shouldn't you show me something? The granny broker apologized profusely, Miss Cousin, I'm sorry. I was deceived by that nanny Lu. It's all my fault. Please spare me. Yun Chuzhou said coldly, If a few words of apology can solve the problem, why do you still need the sword in my hand? The granny broker was dumbfounded. What did this mean? This jinx was not going to kill her as well, right? Hong Ling reminded her, kindly, you have to be sincere in your apology, such as spirit stones. Do you understand? Yun Chuzhou looked at Hong Ling with appreciation. This child was worth teaching. The old woman almost cried. She had failed in this deal, and she still had to pay for it. However, when she thought about how this person had killed 2 people in a row, if she didn't do it, her life would probably be over, so she could only take out 10,000 high-grade spirit stones with heartache. Miss Cousin, these spirit stones are my compensation. Yun Chuzhou's face darkened. Are you trying to send a beggar away? The old woman took out 100,000 high-grade spirit stones in the end and ran away. Oh God, she would never come to the Lan family again. It was too scary. Yun Chuzhou ignored the old woman who had left. Instead, she brought Hong Ling and the other two to the stables and killed the stone road that was coveting Hong Ling. The people in the stables did not even dare to say a word. They just watched Yun Chujio leave with her people. Hong Ling originally thought that Yun Chujio would bring them back to the courtyard. However, she did not expect that she would bring them directly to the ancestral residence. The moment Yun Chujio entered the ancestral residence, she said to the guard, "Call housekeeper Su over here." Soon, housekeeper Su, whose forehead was still wrapped in a cloth, ran over happily. "Miss Cousin, why are you looking for me?" "Xiang Yuan is bold enough to sell my 3 handmaidens to Spring Fragrance Restaurant. What do you think we should do about this?" Yun Chujio said coldly. Housekeeper Su cursed Xiang Yuan in his heart. This fool, did he not learn his lesson from the last time? She actually came to provoke this female devil again. She was really courting death. Yun Chujio nodded her head in satisfaction. "Housekeeper Su, you're really not bad. In the future, I'll have to go out to do some errands. I'll leave the safety of my 3 handmaidens to you." Housekeeper Su secretly complained in his heart, but he didn't dare to refuse. He could only grit his teeth and say, "Miss Cousin, if you're not here, they can come to me if they have any difficulties. I'll definitely do my best." Yun Chujio nodded in satisfaction once again, and then passed him 10,000 high-grade spirit stones. "I'll give it to you." Housekeeper Su almost cried. Oh God, the iron rooster has finally plucked feathers. It really wasn't easy. At this time, Xiang Yuan had already been brought over. Xiang Yuan knew that the matter had been exposed when she saw Hong Ling and the other two, and her face couldn't help but turn pale. Yun Chujio glanced at Hong Ling and said, "Hong Ling, I'll hand her over to you. You can do whatever you want with her." Hong Ling was stunned. Then, with red eyes, she said, "Thank you, miss." After Hong Ling said that, she walked to Xiang Yuan and said, "Xiang Yuan, just because your brother coveted my looks, you tried every means to frame me. You're really vicious." Right now, Xiang Yuan only wanted to save her life. She pleaded, "Sister Hong Ling, I was wrong. Please spare me. I will definitely make it up to you in the future." Xiang Yuan's words came to an abrupt stop because Hong Ling had directly cut her throat. Miss had said before that being merciful to the enemy was cruel to oneself. She could not let Miss down. Chapter 4991, The original body was detoxifying. Housekeeper Su saw that Hong Ling had killed Xiang Yuan and cursed in his heart. Indeed, the kind of master had the kind of maid. This Hong Ling was originally a gentle character, but now she had become so fierce. Yun Chujio was very satisfied with Hong Ling's decisiveness in killing. She said to Housekeeper Su, "Since the matter has been settled, I'll go back now. See you later." What could Housekeeper Su say? He could only respectfully send this fiend out. It was better to stay away from this fiend in the future. One could not afford to offend him, but one could hide from him. Hei Xinjiu brought Hong Ling and the other two out of the ancestral residence in a swagger. They strolled around the streets and even specially made a meal in the restaurant. In the name of it, they were going to get rid of the bad luck. It was not until the sky gradually darkened that they returned to the 3rd branch of the Lan family. When they reached the courtyard, Hei Xinjiu washed up. Before she fell asleep, she felt as if she had forgotten something. Forget it, it was probably nothing important. Let's talk about it tomorrow. In her sleeve pocket, a certain someone was sulking with an empty stomach. This ugly girl was getting more and more outrageous. She did not even give him food. Was she trying to starve him to death? Could it be that she wanted him to ask her for food pitifully? Humph. He didn't care about the food that was given to him. He would rather starve. Moreover, he was a dignified supreme emperor, so he naturally had to sleep on the bed. He didn't want to sleep in the sleeve pouch. Hence, when he noticed that Yun Chujio was already fast asleep, he crawled out from the sleeve pouch and climbed onto the bed. A certain deity's vertical pupils stared coldly at Yun Chujio, thinking that he would definitely teach her a lesson when he recovered. Coincidentally, at this moment, Yun Chujio flipped over and coincidentally pressed her arm on the small silver snake's body. The small silver snake finally crawled out from under Yun Chujio's arm after a long time. It could not help but feel a little indignant. It climbed onto the pillow and stared at Yun Chujio's sleeping face with its vertical pupils. It let out a cold snort. How ugly! At this moment, Yun Chujio turned over. The small silver snake did not react. Its head coincidentally bumped into Yun Chujio's lips. Then, the small silver snake had a nosebleed. Oh my, this was a good thing to celebrate. However, she quickly gave up on this thought because the position was not right. The blood spread all the way to the ground, and there were even a lot of blood stains on the clothes on the chair. Yun Chujio's heart instantly sank. Could it be that something happened to the gigolo? She did not have time to think too much. She jumped to the ground barefooted and opened her sleeve bag in a hurry. When she saw that the silver snake was perfectly fine, she finally let out a sigh of relief. You're not injured, right? Is this blood yours? Yun Chujio picked up the small silver snake and asked while examining it. A certain being snorted coldly. I don't know. It has nothing to do with me anyway. Yun Chujio saw that the small silver snake didn't have any wounds on its body. She was puzzled. Then where did this blood come from? Men and women shouldn't be intimate. Quickly put me down, a certain being said coldly. Yun Chujio curled her lips and threw a certain venerable on the table. Because there was blood in her sleeve bag, it couldn't be used anymore. The small silver snake saw Yun Chujio's curled lips and couldn't help but remember what happened yesterday. The small silver snake's nosebleed spurted out again. What are you looking at? This venerable one is just detoxifying, a certain venerable said confidently with 2 lines of nosebleed. Chapter 4992, You're not too bad looking. Yun Chujio was dumbfounded. When did this pretty boy become so shameless? Detoxification? Detoxification my ass. Too shameless. Yun Chujio threw her clothes on the small silver snake angrily. A certain someone who was pressed under the heavy clothes said without fear of death, You're thinking too much. You're so ugly and your figure isn't good. Do you think that anyone would want to see you? Yun Chujio's hand that was putting on her clothes immediately stopped. Was she hot or ugly? Her figure wasn't good either. A certain being didn't know that he had stepped on the cat's tail, so he continued to say in a suicidal manner, It's fine if you're ugly, but you're always putting on airs. People should know their limits. Before the certain being could finish his words, Hei Shinjo picked up his tail and threw it against the wall. Pretty boy, I gave you some face, didn't I? I'll turn you into a dead snake today. Even if he turned into a snake, his body was still very tough. Therefore, it was not a big deal for Hei Shinjo to throw him like that. However, he felt that his face had been trampled on and said coldly, Ugly girl, you are courting death. Ugly girl. Hei Shinjo was even angrier. This pretty boy had not lost his memory, he was rebelling. Therefore, he fell even harder. The venerable felt dizzy after being thrown, and he felt even more humiliated. He angrily said, Ugly girl, stop right now, or I won't be polite anymore. Yun Chujio immediately stopped moving. The silver snake was secretly delighted. It seemed that he had scared this ugly girl. At this moment, he heard Yun Chujio say word by word, You actually threatened me? So what if I threatened you? You treated this venerable self like this. This venerable self has already given you a lot of face by not killing you. Hearing this, Yun Chujio directly threw the small silver snake on the ground. Then, she lay on the bed and sobbed. The little silver snake immediately froze. Why was she still crying? He didn't say anything. This ugly girl was so thick-skinned that she didn't even cry when she was in danger. Why was she crying so sadly now? The little silver snake only felt pain in his heart and his mind was filled with regret. If he had known that this ugly girl loved to cry, he wouldn't have said anything earlier. A moment later, the little silver snake said stiffly, I didn't say anything. Why are you crying? I'm just trying to scare you. I won't do anything to you. Hei Shinjo cried even more sadly. Sob, 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 sob. You are no longer a gigolo who dotes on me and pampers me. A gigolo won't say that I'm ugly, won't say that I have a bad figure. Sob, 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 a certain someone said dryly, actually, you are not that ugly. No, what I mean is that you are not ugly. Your looks are passable. Hei Shinjo, you are passable. Your whole family is passable. A certain someone also felt that what he said was wrong. He added, I mean your looks are quite pleasing to the eye. Quite good looking. After saying that, a certain honored warrior's body turned pink again, and he felt uncomfortable all over. Then you said that my figure is not good? Tell me, do you like the magnificent ones? Hei Shinjo said fiercely with tears on her face. Hearing that, a certain honored warrior said anxiously, nonsense. I don't like steamed buns, so I like them. I like little Tangyuan. Chapter 4993 Dreamed of a snake. Little Tangyuan. Hei Shinjo cried even harder. Tangyuan was not big to begin with, and it was still little Tangyuan. This was a blatant mockery. She also wanted to have waves, but because of the damn Guai Chao, she did not come to Koishue for a long time. It was already very good that she could be this big, okay? Furthermore, it was clearly, big, Tangyuan. The Guai Chao in her dantian was pretending to be dead because it had a premonition that it was going to be scolded again. It was all because of that pretty boy. Was he stupid? He deserved to be turned into a snake. Seeing Yun Chujo crying even more sadly, a certain venerable was immediately paralyzed. Did he say something wrong again? A certain venerable was frustrated by Hei Xinjia's crying and did not know how to comfort her. He said anxiously, it's not small. It's really not small. It's much bigger than mine. Hei Shinjo, she was a young girl who was older than a man. Was this something to be proud of? This damn gigolo must have humiliated her on purpose. She was so angry. This elder was really dumbfounded. Why was everything he said wrong? If he had known this would happen, he would not have said anything. Fortunately, at this moment, Hong Ling's voice came from outside the door, Miss, third elder wants you to go to the study. Yun Chujo had activated the isolation array previously, so Hong Ling did not know what had happened in the room. Moreover, Hong Ling and the other two were very conscious. Unless there was an emergency or Yun Chujo called them, they would not come to the main house. Got it. I'll go over now, Yun Chujo replied. Yun Chujia's eyes were red, and she did not even look at the small silver snake. She put the clothes that were stained with blood into her storage ring. As for the blood stains on the bed, she did not care. Anyway, Hong Ling would not say anything. Yun Chujo thought for a moment and put the small silver snake into her sleeve bag. Then, she did not wash up. She just left the room with her hair disheveled and red eyes. Hong Ling was shocked. Miss, what happened to you? I had a nightmare last night. I was chased by a damn snake for the whole night, Hei Shinjo said in a hoarse voice. Yun Chujo snorted coldly. No need. I castrated that snake in my dream. Hong Ling, miss, is it really good for you to be so cruel? The small silver snake in the sleeve pocket couldn't help but shiver and subconsciously coiled its body together. Miss, you haven't had breakfast yet. Do you want to eat something first before going over? Hong Ling asked. No, I'm not in the mood. I think that old white lotus from Zhuangshi has complained. It's better for me to go over earlier, Hei Shinjo said lightly. Hong Ling said worriedly, Miss, third elder won't punish you because of this, right? It's all my fault. Lu Luo and Kaiyun also looked at Yun Chujo nervously, feeling both worried and guilty. Yun Chujo glanced at them and then said word by word, you are my people. It is only right and proper for me to protect you, so no one is right or wrong. In the future, if anyone dares to provoke you, beat them hard. I will take care of everything. Hong Ling and the other two were stunned for a moment, and their eyes turned red. They did not say any words of gratitude. All they could do was to put their lives on the line to live up to Miss Words. The little silver snake in his sleeve pocket felt rather upset. This ugly girl treated the maids better than him. He was starving to death. Chapter 4994 Dealing with the Old White Lotus. Hong Ling, come with me. I'll let you see how your miss deals with the White Lotus, Yun Chujo said with a cold smile. If she was in a bad mood, she could vent her anger on the Old White Lotus. Hong Ling immediately accompanied Yun Chujo to Lan Dimeo's courtyard. Zhu Yang was really shocked when he saw Yun Chujo's appearance. What happened to Miss Cousin? Yun Chujo gestured at Zhu Yang with her finger. Zhu Yang hesitated for a moment before walking over. Cousin, what can I do for you? Is my aunt in there? Zhu Yang nodded. Not only is the eldest madam in there, Miss Luo Shan is also in there. Yun Chujo nodded and brought Hong Ling into the courtyard. The guards wanted to prevent Hong Ling from entering, but seeing that Zhu Yang did not say anything, they pretended not to see anything. Before Yun Chujo entered the study, she started howling. Great uncle, great uncle. You have to make a decision for me. I can't live anymore. Hong Ling, who was behind Yun Chujo, was shocked. Was Miss crazy? Lan Dimeo, who was in the study, was about to drink tea when he was frightened by this shout. The teacup in his hand almost fell to the ground. He was about to scold Yun Chujo, but he was shocked by Yun Chujo's miserable state. Yun Chujo's hair was disheveled, her eyes were red and swollen, and there were tears on her face. She looked completely different from her usual lively appearance. Woo, uncle and grandpa, I can't stay in the third room anymore. I've already packed my things. I'm here to say goodbye to you. Hei Xinjiu wiped away her tears and said. Lan Dimeo's expression changed when he heard that. He slammed the table and said, Nonsense. Why can't I stay here anymore? Where do you want to go? He had yet to ask about the whereabouts of the jade token. Besides, the old ancestor obviously valued her. How could he let Yun Chujo leave? Great uncle, I don't want to leave either, but first aunt can't tolerate me. If I stay any longer, it'll be a nuisance. Although I'm thick-skinned, I still want my face. So, I don't want to wait for being chased out. I'd better take the initiative to leave. Moreover, I feel that if I continue to stay here, I'm afraid that I won't be able to keep my life. I was so afraid that I had nightmares all night. Sob, uncle, please let me go, I haven't lived long enough. Yun Chujo said sobbingly. She immediately said, Little Jiu, you have to be honest when you speak. Everyone knows how I treat you. Your words have really disappointed First Aunt. That's right, First Aunt, you treat me extremely well. Before I even arrived, you placed 2 pots of poisonous flowers in my room. Later on, you poisoned my food. Taking advantage of my absence, you wanted to sell my 3 handmaidens to Spring Fragrance Restaurant. You're really good to me. Yun Chujo said with red eyes. Zhuang Shi did not expect Yun Chujo to know about the poisonous flowers and the poison. She panicked for a moment. Lan Luoshan, who was beside her, saw the situation and said gently, Little sister Jiu, you can't slander people. What poisonous flowers and poisons are all made up by you. Also, Hong Ling and the other 2 have broken the family rules. There's nothing wrong with Nanny Lu punishing them according to the family rules. Moreover, Granny Lu and Shi Lu are slaves. If you kill them, so be it. You should never have shouted at my mother to kill her. Now you've reversed the facts and said that my mother can't tolerate you. Little ninth sister, aren't you going too far? Chapter 4995, Eat While It's Hot. Yun Chujo narrowed her eyes. She wanted to play with her mouth. TSK, she was really looking for trouble. Yun Chujo wiped away her tears. Uncle, Grandpa, I'm dumb. I can't win against Sister Luosang. Anyway, justice is in the hearts of the people. I don't want to say anything more. Since eldest aunt can't accept me, I'm going to move to the ancestral residence. The old ancestor pitied me, so I should be able to find a place to stay. Lan Dimeo wasn't willing to let Yun Chujo move out. He immediately slammed the table and said, "This matter ends here. Don't mention it again." After Lan Dimeo finished speaking, he shot a warning glance at Zhuang Shi. Zhuang Shi's heart was filled with hatred. This old fool, what kind of bewitching potion was this bitch giving him? Yun Chujo said with grievance, "Great uncle, Aunt has always said that she's good to me, but ever since I returned to the Lan family, I've never received my monthly allowance, not to mention the cloth and rouge. I didn't want to say it at first. After all, the family is peaceful and everything is prosperous. But since we've already talked things out today, don't you think you should ask Aunt to give me everything?" Lan Dimeo glanced at Zhuang Shi. "Is that so?" Zhuang Shi's face suddenly stiffened, and she didn't know how to explain. Yun Chujo sneered in her heart. She hadn't mentioned these things before because she wanted to take advantage of her. Wishful thinking. "Aunt, I guess it's because you're too forgetful, so you forgot about this matter. How about this, let's not waste time. You can directly transfer 1 million high-grade spirit stones to me. Although I'll suffer some losses, I'll accept it." Yun Chujo blinked her eyes and said. Zhuang Shi was so angry that she almost vomited blood. 1 million. Why didn't she rob him? Those monthly fees and rouge powder were at most 200,000, but she actually wanted 1 million? She had already extorted 1 million from her yesterday, and now she still wanted to extort her. At this moment, Lan Dimeo said, "Boss, let's do as little Jiu says." Zhuang Shi was furious, but she did not dare to disobey Lan Dimeo's orders. She could only transfer 1 million upper-grade spiritual stones to Yun Chujo painfully, then found an excuse to leave. She was afraid that if she did not leave now, Yun Chujo would come up with some bad ideas to blackmail her again. Zhuang Shi was furious. Just as she was about to turn around and argue, she was dragged away by Lan Luoshan. In the study, Lan Dimeo glared at Yun Chujo. "Stop spouting nonsense. In the future, you better restrain yourself, or else I won't let you off so easily." Yun Chujo bared her white teeth. "Uncle, Grandpa, what I said is true. I heard that the Zhuang family has been doing well in recent years." Hearing this, Lan Dimeo was more or less suspicious of Zhuang Shi. This was also what Yun Chujo wanted to achieve. Regardless of whether it was true or not, it was good to give Zhuang Shi some trouble. "Alright, I got it. You can go back. Take care of yourself." Lan Dimeo waved his hand and said impatiently. After Yun Chujo bowed, she brought Hong Ling out of the study. Hong Ling was completely in awe of her young miss. Not only did Zhuang Shi fail to sue her, she even paid 1 million upper-grade spirit stones. She was probably going to vomit blood from anger. The two of them returned to the courtyard. Lu Luo and Kai Yun heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that Yun Chujo was safe and sound. Lu Luo smiled and said, "Young miss, you must be famished, right? Hurry up and eat your breakfast. I specially cooked your favorite glutinous rice balls today. Eat them while they're hot." Chapter 4996 Breakfast. When Yun Chujo heard the word, glutinous rice ball, she was instantly in a bad mood. She gritted her teeth and said, "I want to eat steamed buns, big steamed buns." Lu Luo and the other two were dumbfounded. Didn't their miss usually dislike steamed buns without stuffing? Why did she have to eat steamed buns today? "Miss, this steamed bun can only be steamed with the dough. Can we eat it at noon? If you don't want to eat glutinous rice balls, I even prepared xiao long bao for you. It's your favorite crab roe stuffing," Lu Luo said carefully. Yun Chujo, Zilong bao? Why couldn't she get rid of the word xiao? Forget it. No matter what, Xiaolongbao was much bigger than Tang Yuan. Alright, then let's eat Xiaolongbao. After Yun Chuzhou said that, her eyes rolled around. Bring the Tang Yuan over too. Lu Luo didn't know what was wrong with her miss, so she had to send all the breakfast she had prepared to the main house. Alright, you can all leave now. I'll call you if there's anything else. Yes. After Yun Chuzhou sent Hong Ling and the other two out, she threw the small silver snake on the table and placed the bowl of glutinous rice balls in front of him. She said fiercely, "Don't you like little glutinous rice balls? Eat them. If you don't eat all these glutinous rice balls today, I'll turn you into a eunuch snake." The small silver snake looked at the Tang Yuan in the bowl with its vertical pupils, then looked at Yun Chujia's pair of rabbit-like red eyes. It lowered its head and began to eat the Tang Yuan. The small silver snake snorted in its heart. "I'm not afraid of you. I'm just too lazy to argue with you. Besides, I'm hungry." Seeing that he was obedient, Yun Chuzhou snorted coldly and began to eat the soup dumplings while gnashing her teeth. After Yun Chuzhou had eaten her fill, she looked at the little silver snake that was still fighting with the glutinous rice ball. Suddenly, she was furious and directly pressed the little silver snake into the glutinous rice ball bowl. The little silver snake suddenly broke free from her hand. "Ugly girl, do you want to murder your husband?" Yun Chuzhou sneered. "Husband? Whose husband are you?" The little silver snake was both embarrassed and angry. "Don't go too far, or I will run away from home." "Run away from home? You are quite capable now. Go. I want to see where you can go." Hei Xinjiu had nothing to fear because she was sure that the little silver snake had nowhere to go. He was so weak now. Where could he go? He thought for a moment and snorted coldly, "You want me to leave just like that?" "I want leave." Yun Chuzhou curled her lips. Once this pretty boy turned into a small silver snake, he would turn from an arrogant and shameless person. Tui. He was still a pervert. Yun Chuzhou could not be bothered with him anymore. She tied a knot and threw him at the corner of the wall. Then, she asked Hong Ling to come in and tidy up the bedroom and table. The moment Hong Ling entered, she saw the small silver snake tied in a knot at the corner of the wall. However, she tactfully didn't ask anything. However, when she saw the blood stain on the bed, she immediately lost her composure. "Miss, are you injured?" The corners of Yun Chujia's mouth curled up. "Don't worry, that's not my blood. I castrated that snake last night. This is his blood." Hong Ling looked sympathetically at the small silver snake in the corner. So it was a eunuch snake. The small silver snake was so angry that its vertical pupils were about to spit fire. It made up its mind that when he returned to his human form, it would definitely let this ugly girl know what it meant to be a husband. Humph. An amnesiac fiancé was also a husband. Chapter 4997 was just that Hong Ling packed her things and left. Only Hei Xinjiu and the angry little silver snake were left in the room. Hei Xinjiu saw that the little silver snake was so angry that its vertical pupils were about to cross over. She felt that the anger in her heart had dissipated a lot. She hummed a little song and pondered over her next step. After the old fox released the news of the Zen sect, the Mu family, Zhuang family, and Qi family would probably restrain themselves a lot. However, they would not stop there. They would definitely cause some trouble. However, these were all matters that the old fox should consider. It had nothing to do with her. Her priority now was to cultivate well. Counting the days, Mount Meru should be struck by lightning again. It was simply wonderful. However, cultivating step by step was too slow. It would be great if there was a way to completely stimulate the potential in her body. She recalled what Qiying had said. In her previous life, the relationship between her and the gigolo had developed in the heavy cloud continent. When she had time, she could go out for a stroll. Perhaps she would have some unexpected gains. Of course, she could not do it now. Whether it was the divine devil hall or the other three families, they would most likely be disadvantageous to her. Fortunately, she had already stirred up the water in the heavy cloud continent. As long as she planned carefully, she would definitely be able to achieve her wish. The small silver snake in the corner saw Yunchujia's sudden joy and worry. Its eyes were very bright, and the anger in its heart suddenly dissipated. There was even a strange hint of sweetness. After a certain honored guest realized this, the entire snake was instantly in a bad mood. What was wrong with him? After being scolded and tormented by that ugly girl, he actually still felt a hint of sweetness? Has he gone mad? After thinking for a while, he felt that he must be feeling guilty. After all, he had lost his memory and had forgotten about his fiancée. Guilt was inevitable. Yes, that was it. It was guilt. That was all. After thinking about, understanding, he gathered his thoughts and began to cultivate. A man and a snake were busy with their own things. However, the room was filled with a faint sense of peace and beauty. The next day, Yun Chujio arrived at the ancestral residence early, but she did not attend the class. The spiritual power class was no longer of any use to her, because she was already certain that she could not conjure a spiritual beast to assist her. As for the body refining class, there was no need for her to attend it. She might as well go to the library to see if there were any books on alchemy and talisman making. Thus, this fellow went to find housekeeper Sue. I've finished reading the books on the first floor of the library. I plan to go to the second floor to take a look, but my points are not enough. Help me think of a way. Housekeeper Sue looked at Hei Shinjo, who was playing truant, and looked troubled. Miss Cousin, there are rules in the ancestral residence. If you don't have enough points, you won't be able to go to the second floor. I can't do anything about it. Yun Chujio glanced at him. Housekeeper Sue, you took 10,000 high-grade spirit stones from me 2 days ago. Do you want to just take money and not do anything? If you don't help me think of a way today, I'll go to the ancestor and complain that you're blackmailing me. Housekeeper Sue wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He was wondering why this iron rooster had plucked feathers 2 days ago. So it was poisonous feathers. Miss Cousin, I really have no choice. This rule was set by the ancestor. Why don't you go and ask the ancestor? Seeing that housekeeper Sue was about to cry, Yun Chujio knew that he really had no choice. She said with a smile, Housekeeper Sue, I was just teasing you. You didn't take it seriously, right? Chapter 4998 was just a little fox. What could housekeeper Sue say? He could only shake his head with a bitter smile. Yun Chujio comforted housekeeper Sue with a few more hypocritical words before she arrived outside the Lan family's patriarch's courtyard. After the guard reported the news, Hei Shinjo hopped into the patriarch's study room. Patriarch, little Jio has come to pay her respects to you. Hei Shinjo said with a smile. The Lan family's old ancestor snorted, why didn't you go to class? Yun Chujio bared her little white teeth, old ancestor, my situation is quite special. Even if I went through a lifetime of spiritual power lessons, I wouldn't be able to transform into a spiritual beast to assist me. Therefore, I plan to go to the library to read books. However, I don't have enough points and can't go to the second floor. Please show mercy. To Hei Xinjia's surprise, the Lan family's patriarch agreed immediately. He gave her a token and said, with this token, you can enter the library freely. You can enter any floor. Yun Chujio was so happy that her eyelashes were about to blossom. Thank you, patriarch. I know that you love me the most. I'll take my leave now. I'll come back to pay my respects to you another day. The ancestor of the Lan family nodded, and then Hei Shinjo left. After Yun Chujio left, an old man wearing a mask appeared in front of the ancestor of the Lan family. Master, are you planning to nurture this Yun Chujio? The ancestor of the Lan family nodded. Luo Chen is the best candidate, but to be on the safe side, it's good to have another candidate. However, she's not qualified yet. Let's wait until after the Divine Relic trial. Master, the divine relic trial this time is even more dangerous than usual. After all, the Mu family, Zhuang family, and Qi family will definitely join hands to deal with our Lan family. Do we still have to participate? The masked elder asked uncertainly. The Lan family's ancestor knocked on the table with his finger. Of course we have to participate. The path of cultivation is to fight against the heavens. As for the Mu family, don't they still have that troublemaker? The masked elder, do you mean to let that troublemaker, Yun Chujiu, lead the team this time? The masked elder almost blurted out, troublemaker, but he changed his words in the end. After all, no matter how bad it was, he was still a young master. The Lan family's ancestor nodded. That troublemaker is full of bad ideas and has many tricks up her sleeve. She should be able to deal with it. If she can't handle it, then she doesn't have the qualifications to be a candidate. Master, this is a very important matter. If Yun Chujiu isn't qualified, then all the young masters who go there will probably die. The price is too high. The old man said with some worry. If she doesn't have enough self-protection ability, then she will die. After all, there is still Luochen. The ancestor said coldly. The old man did not reply. Ever since the incident with Lan Dimeo's father, the Lan family's old ancestor had become more and more cold. Only when he faced Lan Luochen and Yun Chujiu did he still have some warmth. After a moment of silence, the old man said, Master, that Yun Chujiu is very intelligent. She might not be willing to participate in the divine relic trials, let alone become the leader of the Lan family. The ancestor of the Lan family picked up his teacup and took a sip of tea. He smiled and said, she's just a little fox. I have many ways to force her to submit. There's no rush. Anyway, there's still half a month. Let her prance around for a few days. Yun Chujiu did not know about the conversation between the two. This fellow had already arrived at the library happily. The guard guarding the library saw the token that Yun Chujiu took out and became even more respectful to her. He opened the enchantment of the second level of the library. Chapter 49-99 Token. As Lan Luoyen and the others were still in class, Yun Chujiu was the only person in the huge second-floor library. Yes, there was also a snake. Only then did Yun Chujiu remember that the ancestor of the Lan family actually did not sense the small silver snake in the sleeve bag. This did not make sense. If the spiritual beast was in the spiritual beast bag, other people would not be able to sense it. However, the sleeve bag did not isolate spiritual sense. How could the ancestor of the Lan family, who had such a high cultivation level, not notice the gigolo? However, she did not ask the little silver snake. After all, who knew if there was any array formation inside the library? It would be terrible if that old fox discovered it. Yun Chujiu temporarily put this matter to the back of her mind and began to read the books on the second floor. She planned to first read all the books on alchemy and talismans in the library, and then read other books when she had time. However, to her great disappointment, there were very few books on alchemy and talismans on the second floor. The few dozen books on alchemy and talismans were all already mastered by Yun Chujiu. Therefore, she prepared to go to the third floor to take a look. However, she did not expect to coincidentally meet Lan Luoyen and the others who came up from the first floor just as she was about to walk up the stairs. Lan Luoyen glanced at Yun Chujiu, and it was rare that she did not make a sound. Her lackeys had all had their legs broken by someone. Even if she used her heel to think, she knew that it was Yun Chujiu who had done it. Therefore, she now felt both hatred and fear towards Yun Chujiu. Lan Luoshan, who was beside her, kindly reminded her, "Little sister Jiu, the third floor requires 2,000 points. You shouldn't have that many points, right? So, don't make things difficult for the guards. You'd better read on the second floor." Yun Chujiu curled her lips and took out the token given to her by the ancestor of the Lan family. She waved it. "Sister Luoshan, you don't have to worry. I have the token given to me by the ancestor. I can pass through the library unimpeded. This time, both Lan Luoshan and the others were stunned. What? The ancestor actually gave her the token to pass through? Why? One had to know that even the Great Elder and the others had to rely on their points to enter the corresponding floors, but this troublemaker could pass through without any obstruction. The ancestor was too biased. Yun Chuzhou looked at their envious and jealous expressions and curled her lips. Are you guys feeling very unbalanced? Do you feel very angry? There's no choice. The old ancestor only dotes on me. Don't you think it's infuriating? Ha ha ha. Lan Luoyan saw that Yun Chuzhou had left, so she gritted her teeth and said, "This bitch is getting more and more arrogant. She really deserves to die." When Lan Luoshan heard that, her eyes flashed and she said, "Forget it. She is now the old ancestor's beloved flesh and blood. We, the direct descendants, are not as good as a person with another surname." Lan Lushan's words made the people present even more dissatisfied. Yes, they were all surnamed Lan, and that bitch was surnamed Yun. Was our ancestor muddle-headed? When Lan Luoshan saw the reactions of the crowd, she felt proud in her heart. Yun Chuzhou, that idiot, was so arrogant and stupid to the extreme. This time, she did not have to make a move. The others would have to think of a way to get rid of her. Yun Chuzhou had naturally thought of this, but she had already latched onto the old ancestor's thigh, and she had also hooked up with the Zen sect. She did not put Lan Luoshan and the others in her eyes at all. They were just a bunch of clowns. Moreover, the matter of her having a token would be spread out sooner or later. She might as well get angry at them. Chapter 5000, Dinner. Yun Chuzhou went to the third floor to sweep the area, but the result was still very disappointing. There were only about a dozen books on talisman seals and alchemy in the entire third floor. Yun Chuzhou also knew about the things recorded on them. This fellow could only go to the fourth and fifth floor to sweep again. In the end, he only found a few books on talisman seals and alchemy that could only be considered average. This fellow could not help but be greatly disappointed. He had thought that the Lan family's book collection pavilion would have many related books, but he did not expect to get so many. This fellow thought for a moment and understood. The Lan family members basically all had water spirit roots. Other spirit roots were very few, so they were not interested in making talismans and alchemy. In addition, high-level alchemy and high-level talisman making were confidential. It was no wonder that the Lan family's book collection pavilion did not have high-level alchemy and talisman-making books. Fortunately, this guy had a big heart. He felt that it was better to have them than not to have them, so he memorized all the things recorded in those books. Yun Chuzhou was about to read other books, but because it was the stipulated time, she had to leave the library and prepare to come back the next day to read. Yun Chuzhou returned to the third room, washed up briefly, and began to eat dinner. This guy now had the awareness to feed the small silver snake, so the man and the snake ate dinner together. Yun Chuzhou remembered the question she had during the day and asked, "Why didn't that old fox sense your presence?" The small silver snake said coldly, "Of course it was because I used a method to conceal my aura." "Oh right, when you were talking to him today, I sensed that there was another person in the room, and his cultivation level was quite high." Yun Chuzhou thought that the person was old Tua, so she didn't care too much. Anyway, with the Zen sect, that old fox didn't dare to really do anything to her. Soon, Yun Chuzhou finished eating. She held her chin and looked at the small silver snake that hadn't finished eating. Although the small silver snake also had 4 small claws, it was obviously not very agile, so it ate very slowly. Even so, the noble aura that emitted from its bones was still pleasing to He Xinjia's eyes. This guy thought sourly in his heart that even if the pretty boy turned into a pig, he would probably have a halo of his own. As this guy was thinking, he saw the small silver snake stop its movement and said in a deep voice, "The pressure outside has become stronger." Yun Chuzhou was stunned at first and then ran out of the house. It was now evening. There was still a hint of the setting sun in the sky, but at this time, the sky quickly darkened. Yun Chuzhia's eyes lit up. Could it be that the heavenly thunder had come earlier? This guy immediately jumped into the house and stuffed the small silver snake into his sleeve pocket. Then, he ran out. When Yun Chujio reached the city gate was already closed. Yun Chujio said to the guards, "Open the city gate. I want to go out and do something." The guards looked at each other and hesitated. One of them said, "Miss Yun, you need a token to leave the city at night." "Do you have a token?" Yun Chujio took out a large kitchen knife and said coldly, "Is this thing okay?" The guards, just when they were at a loss, Yun Chujio shouted sternly, "Open the door quickly. I have to go out to do something big. If I'm delayed, you guys will be in big trouble." The guards were still a little hesitant. After all, letting people out of the city privately was a big crime. Chapter 5001 blinded his snake eyes. Just as Yun Chujio was about to force her way in, Yuan Ji ran over from afar. He took out a token and handed it to the guards. When the guards saw this, they opened the city gate. Yun Chujio glanced at Yuan Ji. "Why are you here? Did you arrange a lot of spies outside the third room?" Yuan Ji smiled awkwardly but didn't deny it. "Forget it. Since you helped me out in time, I won't pursue you." "What's the matter? Do you still want to taste the feeling of being struck bald?" Yun Chujio said with a half-smile. Yuan Ji subconsciously touched his hair and said with lingering fear, "I'll stay far away this time. I shouldn't be struck." He didn't want to come from the bottom of his heart, but he was afraid that Yun Chujio would take the opportunity to escape again, so he had to bite the bullet and come. Yun Chujio smiled. "Don't worry, the Lan family is the safest place now. I won't go anywhere. However, if you're willing to follow, then follow." The two of them soon arrived at the foot of Mount Meru. Yuan Ji laughed dryly. "Miss Jiu, I'll wait for you at the foot of the mountain. I won't go any further." Yun Chujio knew that he was afraid that he would be struck by lightning again, so she just smiled and entered Mount Meru. The small silver snake in her sleeve had always been suspicious. Now that only the two of them were left, she asked, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here? I feel that the pressure here is stronger than anywhere else. I'm afraid that heavenly lightning is about to descend." Yun Chujio said with a smile, "I'm naturally here to be struck by lightning. You still don't know, right? This Mount Meru will be struck by heavenly lightning once a month, and each time, the heavenly lightning will last for several hours. It's simply a good place that can't be found even with a lantern." The little silver snake was stunned at first, then it roared, "Since you know that the lightning here will last for several hours, why did you come here? Are you stupid?" Yun Chujio was stunned, and then she realized that Di Baiming had lost all his memories about her, so he naturally did not know that she was not afraid of being struck by lightning. Therefore, he explained, "Don't worry, I have a heavenly lightning spiritual root, so I'm not afraid of being struck by lightning. The longer the lightning, the better." A certain person was so angry that he was dumbfounded. This was simply nonsense. He was not a 3-year-old child. Even if he had a heavenly lightning spiritual root, it was impossible for him not to be afraid of being struck by lightning. At most, he would be able to withstand a few more bolts of lightning compared to other spiritual roots. This ugly girl actually ran to a place where lightning was so dense. Wasn't she courting death? Yun Chujio was speechless. "I'm really not afraid of being struck by lightning. I'm not lying to you. Are you afraid of being struck by heavenly lightning? Don't worry about that. Heavenly lightning has a work ethic. Generally speaking, it won't accidentally strike others. When the time comes, it'll just put you somewhere far away from me." The little silver snake became even more anxious when it heard that. It roared, "Ugly girl, you're courting death. Don't tell me that you want to commit suicide because I forgot about you. Or are you sad because of what I said about glutinous rice ball the other day? All of this is my fault. Don't think too hard about it. I'll recover my memory sooner or later. Moreover, your penis isn't small either. It's really not small. It's much bigger than glutinous rice ball. Yun Chujio, she originally wanted to continue explaining, but when she heard the word, glutinous rice ball, she decided not to say anything. Even if she did, the amnesiac snake would not believe her. Chapter 5002, I'll roast some spiritual potatoes for you later. The small silver snake saw that Yun Chujio continued to walk forward and had no intention of stopping. It immediately jumped out of its sleeve pocket and wrapped itself around her wrist. It roared, "Stop! You can't go any further. If you persist, I can only stop you by force." Yun Chujio looked at the small silver snake's vertical pupils that had already turned slightly red. She knew that he was really anxious, so she could only stop and say seriously, "I'm really not afraid of being struck by lightning. Think about it. If I didn't have any special abilities, how could I have accompanied you all the way until now? Do you believe me?" The small silver snake saw the bright and confident light in Yun Chujio's eyes, and its heart suddenly stopped. It was actually unable to say anything. Yun Chujio thought that the small silver snake had already believed her words, so she directly coiled the small silver snake on her arm and quickly jumped towards the place that was struck by lightning every time. Perhaps she came faster this time, so when she arrived at the place, she found that the dark clouds were still gathering. For a moment, she could not tell whether it was Wu Yun or not. The little silver snake saw the deep pits on the ground and became even more worried. He thought to himself, if this ugly girl really could not hold on any longer, he could only risk his life to save her. As for why he did this, a certain venerable felt that it was out of responsibility. After all, she was his fiancée, and that was all. Yun Chujio did not know what the little silver snake was thinking. She said with a smile, "It's been a long time since you've eaten a heavenly thunder roasted spiritual potato, right? I'll roast a few for you to try later." The little silver snake, he felt that his ears were playing tricks on him. Heavenly thunder roasted spiritual potato. He had never heard that heavenly thunder could do such a thing. Moreover, this ugly girl's heart was too big. She actually still wanted to eat at this time. After a while, the dark clouds had already gathered together. Yun Chujio took a look and was amused. Wasn't this the dark cloud that had accidentally struck Yuan Ji previously? Actually, Yuan Ji had initially planned to keep his mouth shut, but he was no match for Yun Chujio. He was tricked out by Yun Chujio and almost made Yun Chujio laugh to death. The dark cloud in the sky sneakily looked down. When it saw Yun Chujio, it suddenly felt that the entire cloud was not good. It said that it would not come, but it had to come. That number 250 had said that it would not meet this fiend a few days in advance. Damn it, it had been tricked again. It seemed that he had misused his words. Bah! He was betraying his country. He didn't believe that the stinky girl wasn't afraid of being struck by lightning. This time, she had a lot more lightning spiritual energy than last time. Perhaps, she would really be struck to death. Yun Chujio naturally didn't know that Wu Yun had so many psychological activities. This guy had placed the small silver snake on a crooked tree far away from her. In order to protect him, he had even specially released Buttface and 2 puppets. Although Buttface was useless, he was still a scheming dog. Yun Chujio still trusted him. After Yun Chujio left, Buttface immediately said obsequiously, "Your Excellency, Buttface sends his regards to you." The little silver snake looked at Yun Chujio in the distance and asked coldly, "Is she really not afraid of being struck by lightning?" "Your Excellency, don't worry. The little fairy is a pervert. Not only is she not afraid of being struck by lightning, but she will also trick a few cloud wings from time to time," Buttface said with pride. Chapter 5003 was not for you. When the little silver snake heard this, it felt a little more at ease. Buttface continued, "Your Excellency, you might not know this, but the little fairy has a little Wu Yun. Although it's not as strong as the Wu Yun in the sky, it can still carry the little fairy far." The little silver snake was shocked. What? A little Wu Yun? He had underestimated this ugly girl. In order to gain a good impression, Buttface continued to boast, "Your Excellency, since we have nothing to do, I'll tell you all about the little fairy." The little silver snake hummed and then listened to Buttface's chatter. As he listened to Buttface's narration, the disappointment in his heart became heavier and heavier. Originally, he didn't think that amnesia was a big deal. After all, he had only lost the memory of the ugly girl. But now, as he listened to Buttface's story, he felt as if a large part of his heart was empty. To a certain extent, he didn't seem to be able to compare to Buttface. After all, he and the ugly girl had a lot of common memories. Buttface, who was being smug, suddenly shivered. He looked up and saw the small silver snake's vertical pupils. There was a faint trace of dislike and jealousy. Buttface's head buzzed. It was over. The flatterer had gone up. The dog rolled its eyes and said, "Your Majesty, the little fairy's love for you is like a torrential river. She loves you the most and only loves you. You don't know. After you fainted, the little fairy bit her finger and fed her blood to you without saying a word." A certain honor was shocked and asked in a daze, why did she feed her blood to me?" "Because her blood can relieve the cold poison in your body. This isn't the first time she has done this. She has fed you a lot of blood in the past." Beiming did not hear the rest of Buttface's words because his heart was in a mess. She actually fed him blood? And it was not the first time. In his mind, the moment he woke up, Yunchujia's surprised gaze, and his astonishment when he said the word "scram" suddenly appeared. Beiming's heart suddenly ached. This was the first time he blamed himself for losing his memory. He was anxious to find his lost memories. At first, Buttface was still chattering. Later, when he saw the little silver snake getting lost in his own thoughts, he stopped talking. This fellow thought to himself, TSK, even if he lost his memory, he wouldn't be able to escape from the little fairy's grasp. He could be considered to have been eaten alive by the little fairy. However, he didn't know when this jinx would recover. The reason was simple. Ever since the little perverted dragon entered Yunchujia's spirit beast bag, it had been surrounding Peach Blossom and trying to curry favor with her. It had almost angered Buttface to death. Buttface felt that although he did not like Peach Blossom, the dog that was obsessed with love, Peach Blossom was still a female that had pursued him before. Therefore, he could not just watch Peach Blossom be lured by the little perverted dragon. Rumble. 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 The loud rumble interrupted the thoughts of the little silver snake and Buttface. Dozens of bolts of lightning struck Yunchujio from afar. Although the little silver snake already knew that Yunchujio wasn't afraid of lightning strikes, it had only heard about it. Hence, its vertical pupils were filled with worry. Was that ugly girl really not afraid of lightning strikes? Just as the little silver snake was thinking, a few roasted spirit potatoes were thrown over from afar. Dog 2 eagerly said, "Your Majesty, this must be the spirit potatoes that the little fairy used the heavenly lightning to roast for us. Let's eat them while they're hot." After saying that, Dog 2 was about to start eating when it felt the murderous aura on its back. It heard a certain someone coldly say, "It's not us, it's me. There's no share for you." Scram. Chapter 5004 was well mastered, but Face's paw froze instantly. He cursed in his heart. This jinx really uses a dog to face the front, but doesn't use a dog to face the back. He turns hostile faster than flipping through a book. He only knows how to eat alone. Eat, eat. With so many roasted spirit potatoes, it would be better if you choked to death. The little silver snake didn't know about Buttface's rich psychological activities. He pulled all the spirit potatoes in front of him, but he didn't eat them. Instead, he nervously watched the situation in the distance. Wu Yun was so angry that he felt like he was going to faint. That stupid girl actually used heavenly thunder to roast the spiritual potatoes. This was a blatant clamor. She must be struck to death today. However, the ideal was beautiful, but reality had given it a severe blow. After chopping for more than 2 hours, it did not do anything to Yun Chujio. Instead, it let her roast a pile of spiritual potatoes. Well, there was also roast chicken, roast duck, roast goose. Hey, little Yun Yun, let's not talk about other things. Your barbecue skills are much better than the other Wu Yun's. Your control of the fire is just right. Hei Xinjiu tore off a chicken drumstick and said as she chewed on it. Wu Yun was already extremely furious. He no longer cared about the consequences. He directly gathered the remaining power of lightning into an extremely thick lightning bolt and hacked down towards Hei Xinjiu. Hei Xinjiu cried out in fear. What a joke! If such a thick lightning bolt really struck her, even if she didn't die, she would at least lose a layer of skin. This fellow wanted to run, but how could a human be faster than a lightning bolt? Fortunately, this fellow was quick-witted. He threw a flying spirit tool towards the lightning bolt. Although it was painful, it could at least slow down the lightning bolt's falling speed. Moreover, it could also consume a portion of the power of lightning. The huge flying spiritual artifact was directly turned into ashes by the heavenly lightning. Hei Xinjiu hurriedly threw another flying spiritual artifact to block in front of her, but it was turned into ashes again. Hei Xinjiu threw 5 flying spiritual artifacts in a row. Seeing that the heavenly lightning was already within the acceptable range, she did not dodge and was struck by the heavenly lightning. After being struck by the heavenly lightning, Hei Xinjiu pointed at Wu Yun in the sky and cursed, "You son of a bitch! Are you stupid? Don't you know what a slow flow of water is? You actually struck down all of them at once. You prodigal thing! You compensate my flying spiritual artifact." The moment this fellow thought about the hundreds of millions of upper-grade spiritual stones being thrown away just like that, he felt an unbearable pain in his heart. Immediately, he rode on the little Wu Yun and rushed towards the Wu Yun in the sky. The next time will definitely, no, there won't be a next time. When he went back, he would find that damned number 250 to settle the score. Seeing that Wu Yun had drifted away, Yun Chujio spat and landed on the ground again, starting to break through. A moment later, the creature opened his eyes, his face full of displeasure. Because of Wu Yun's recklessness, the power of lightning she absorbed this time was limited. She only broke through 2 levels, from the 3rd level to the 5th level of the extreme spiritual realm. However, because the power of lightning she absorbed was limited, she did not become bald this time. Instead, she became a head of curly hair. Just as she was feeling vexed, she heard a somewhat hoarse voice, "Your clothes are untidy, what a disgrace. Why aren't you changing your clothes?" Yun Chujio looked down. Although she kept putting on clothes during the process of being struck, her clothes were still cut into strips. She could vaguely see the snow-white skin on her arms and legs. She randomly put on a set of clothes. When she looked up, she saw the small silver snake with its eyes closed, but there were 2 bloody lines on its nose. Chapter 5005 was indeed bigger than glutinous rice ball. Yun Chujio pursed her lips when she saw the small silver snake. At that moment, a few scattered thunderclaps came from afar. For some reason, Yun Chujio felt that Yuan Ji was most likely struck again. She curled the corners of her lips and was surprised to find that Butt-Face and the 2 puppets had disappeared. "Where are Butt-Face and puppets number 4 and number 5? She asked in puzzlement. At this moment, Butt-Face's sobbing voice came from a deep pit in the distance. "Little fairy, your majesty forced us to jump into the pit and almost killed me. Hurry up and save us." A certain lord snorted coldly. "Don't look at indecent things." Yun Chujio, the pretty boy, had lost his memory, but his jealousy had not changed. Yun Chujio shook her head and ignored a certain someone who was secretly poking her nose and wiping it. She walked to the side of the deep pit and brought Butt-Face and the 2 puppets up. Butt-Face complained with his spiritual sense, "Little fairy, the gigolo not only made me jump into the pit, but he also didn't give me any spiritual potatoes." Yun Chujio looked at a pile of roasted spiritual potatoes in the distance speechlessly and said, "Don't worry. I'll give you some roasted duck later." But Face immediately turned around and looked at Yun Chujia's curly hair. He said slyly, "Little fairy, your new hairstyle is really nice." Yun Chujio looked at him with appreciation and put away the two puppets and the things that were roasted on the ground. Finally, she picked up the small silver snake and said with a smile, "How is it? I told you I'm not afraid of being struck by lightning, right?" The small silver snake saw Yun Chujia's smiling little face. Although there were black and white lines on it, its little heart inexplicably beat a little fast. It said hesitantly, "Yes, you are indeed not afraid of being struck by lightning." Yun Chujio saw that the small silver snake actually did not argue with her. She could not help but feel puzzled. Has this tsundere changed his character? However, she was in a hurry to return to the city and did not think much about it. Therefore, she put the small silver snake into her sleeve bag and rushed down the mountain. When she reached the foot of the mountain and saw Yuan Ji wearing a bamboo hat, Yun Chujio burst into laughter. "Yuan Ji, I told you to be careful of being struck by lightning, right? You've become bald again, haven't you?" The reason was indeed very simple. When Wu Yun escaped and saw Yuan Ji, he was instantly enraged. Great! This lackey actually followed him again. He really wanted to be struck. Hence, he rewarded Yuan Ji with the remaining bolts of heavenly lightning. However, when Yuan Ji saw the curly hair on Yun Chujia's head, he felt a strange sense of balance in his heart. Compared to the curly hair on her head, he would rather be struck bald. Yun Chujio noticed Yuan Ji's gaze and secretly pursed her lips. What did she know? This was a fashion fireworks display. The two of them quickly returned to the imperial city. Even though it was already the second half of the night, the city gate guards still let the two of them in because Yuan Ji had the token in his hand. However, when the few guards saw Yun Chujia's curly hair, they looked at each other in dismay. What did this Miss Yun do this time? Why did she become curly hair? After Yun Chujio returned to her own courtyard, her body was covered in dust, so she began to bathe and change her clothes. Of course, in order to prevent the small silver snake from peeking at her, Yun Chujio locked the small silver snake in the big iron pot. However, Hei Shinjo did not know that the big iron pot had left a crack for a certain someone. Under the struggle, a certain someone still peeked a few times. Yes, it was indeed bigger than glutinous rice balls. Chapter 5006, I want to eat glutinous rice balls. After Yun Chujio finished bathing and put on her clothes, she put away the big iron pot. Then, she saw two more bloodlines hanging on the nose of the small silver snake. Yun Chujio, pretty boy, what are you thinking about again? Are you planning to die of blood poisoning? Yun Chujio thought that a certain venerable had imagined something bad, so her nose was bleeding again. Even in her dreams, she would never have thought that the big iron pot not only had intelligence, but also knew how to suck up to her. The venerable one felt guilty and said casually, "No, nothing much. I just want to eat glutinous rice balls." As soon as he said that, the small silver snake instantly turned pale pink, and Hei Xinjia's face turned red. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became a little ambiguous. After a moment, Hei Shinjo said fiercely, "Shameless." A certain someone, he was talking about the real glutinous rice ball. He wasn't referring to Xiao He, who was showing off her sharp edges. However, he knew that the more he tried to cover up, the darker it would become, so he simply didn't say anything. Yun Chujio directly hid under the quilt. She gritted her teeth in her heart. This pretty boy was even more shameless after he lost his memory. Yun Chujio was tired after a whole day of torment and fell asleep very quickly. However, the silver snake was not sleepy at all. Its mind was in a mess. After struggling for a while, it finally crawled onto the bed and fell asleep with satisfaction after smelling the fragrance on the blanket. Yun Chujio slept until noon the next day. The silver snake returned to the table before she woke up. Therefore, when Yun Chujio opened her eyes, she saw the small silver snake cultivating with its eyes closed on the table. It was rare for Yun Chujio to have a conscience. She felt that letting the small silver snake sleep on the cold table was a little inhumane, so she decided to build a nest for him at night. Therefore, before going to bed that night, Hei Shinjo took out a bamboo basket and spread some soft cloth on it to put the small silver snake inside. The small silver snake's vertical pupils flashed, but it did not say anything, because he was going to sleep on the bed anyway. Of course, he did not want to be closer to the ugly girl, he just wanted dignity. Yes, it was for dignity. As an overlord, he naturally had to sleep on the bed. Therefore, for the next few nights, after Yun Chujo fell asleep, the small silver snake would sneak onto the bed, and then obediently crawl back to its nest before Yun Chujo woke up. Yun Chujia's silly cuties were naturally aware of this, but none of them told Yun Chujo the truth. The reason was very simple. This was the matter of the couple, so why would they get involved? On this day, Yun Chujo had just returned from the ancestral home when Lan Luofang came over excitedly. "Little Jiu, I knew you would be safe. Here, this is the snack I brought back from my ancestral home. I'll give it to you." Yun Chujo saw the snack Lan Luofang handed over and immediately smiled so much that she could not close her mouth. The two of them chatted casually. After chatting for a while, Lan Luofang finally remembered the important matter and said, "Oh right, little Jiu, my mother wanted me to remind you not to participate in the Divine Relic Trial." Yun Chujo was stunned. Divine Relic Trial? Lan Luofang saw her blank face and explained, "The Divine Relic Trial is held once every 30 years. The location is the Divine Relic Land. It is said that it used to be the place where the gods lived. However, only cultivators below the peak of the spirit realm can enter. Since the Divine Relic Land was discovered by the ancestors of the four families, only the four families can open the enchantment together. This has also become a competition between the four families." Yun Chujo raised her eyebrows. "According to what you said, participating in the God's Legacy Trial will get you a lot of good things, and you might even get an inheritance. This is a once-in-lifetime opportunity. Why won't Second Aunt let me participate?" Lan Luofang curled her lips. If it were in the past, everyone would be trying their best to get a spot. But today is different. The Mu family, the Zhuang family, and the Qi family will definitely attack the secret realm, so you must not participate. After Lan Luofang finished speaking, she saw that Yun Chujo was in a daze and could not help but raise her voice. "Little Jiu, did you hear what I said?" Yun Chujo knocked on the stone table with her finger, indicating that Lan Luofang should not speak for now. Lan Luofang did not know what evil scheme she was up to, so she could only keep her mouth shut. At this moment, Yun Chujo was not thinking about the Divine Relic Trial, but what Lan Luofang said just now had answered one of her questions. A few days ago, when she killed Nanny Lu, it was obvious that Zhuang Shi and Lan Luoshan intended to keep the matter quiet, or rather, they wanted to play dirty. In the end, they went to Lan Dimeo the next day to complain. At that time, she was still thinking, why did this mother and daughter pair suddenly change their minds? Was there someone supporting them? Alpha D Alpha, Eta Theta Nu Epsilon. Could it be that the mother and daughter of Zhuang Shi were related to the Zhuang family? Of course, this was only her guess. She would have to see what happened next. Yun Chujo thought of this and said to Lan Luofang, "What you said makes sense. Indeed, this Divine Relic Trial cannot be attended. I will not go." Lan Luofang nodded. "That's good. Maybe the old ancestor won't let our people participate this time. After all, he knows that if we go this time, things will be bad." Yun Chujo didn't know why, but she had a bad premonition in her heart. That old fox wouldn't force her to participate, right? Rho Alpha D Alpha N Nu Omph. No matter what, even if she didn't go, he couldn't do anything to her. The next day, everyone from the Lan family was summoned to the ancestral residence. Everyone guessed that it should be about the Divine Relic Trial. Could it be that the old ancestor had announced that the Lan family had given up on this trial? Very quickly, the old ancestor arrived at the square. He swept his gaze across everyone and said, "The divine relic trial is about to begin. I know that all of you are worried that you will be besieged by the other 3 families. However, the path of cultivation is a life and death struggle. There is no room for retreat. Therefore, our Lan family will not only participate in this trial, but we will also take the lead." When the Lan family members heard this, they immediately looked troubled. Take the lead? Forget it. It would be good enough if they could come back alive. The ancestor continued, "Every time, the candidates for the divine relic trial are selected through a competition. This time, because there is no time, we will directly refer to the ranking of the last family competition and obtain the qualification to enter the top 10. Since the first place of the last family competition was Yun Chujio, the captain of the Lan family trial this time is Yun Chujio." Yun Chujio, fuck. What's there to be afraid of? What's this old fox thinking? Just as Hei Shinjo was about to feign illness, the old ancestor gave her a warning glance. This fellow thought for a moment and didn't say anything. He planned to find the old fox to negotiate after the meeting ended. Lan Luocheng and the others looked at each other. They were naturally unwilling to participate in this divine relic trial. They were even more dissatisfied with Yun Chujio being the team leader. However, they did not dare to question the old ancestor. They were extremely dissatisfied in their hearts. The old ancestor swept his gaze across the crowd and said, "Since I have already appointed Yun Chujio as the team leader, the rest of you who are participating in the trial must unconditionally listen to her arrangements. Otherwise, she has the right to kill anyone who disobeys her orders on the spot." Once the old ancestor said this, Lan Luocheng and the others became even more dissatisfied. On what basis? Yes, Yun Chujio's spiritual power had suddenly soared recently, and she had already reached the 5th level of the extreme spiritual realm. However, their spiritual power had also increased, and they were not inferior to this Yun Chujio. On what basis did they have to listen to her? However, although they were dissatisfied, no one dared to make a sound. Yun Chujio felt that if gazes could kill, she would have already died a few times. The old ancestor did not continue to say anything. He just glanced at everyone and signaled for them to disperse. Yun Chujio immediately followed the old ancestor to the study room. "Old ancestor, I'ma waste. I won't waste such a precious spot. Let's give it to someone who needs it more." Hei Shinjo said with a snort. Forefather snorted coldly. "You dare to venture into the wilderness by yourself? What's a trifling divine relic trial?" Yun Chujio, before she could argue further, Forefather continued, "Not only will you go, but you will also have to shoulder the responsibility of being the team leader. You have to bring them back safely. And you have to get first place." Yun Chujio's mouth opened and closed. "Old ancestor, why don't you just slap me to death? What a joke. Such a group of trash, and they all had their own ulterior motives. She did not have the ability to bring them to first place." The Lan family's old ancestor smiled mysteriously. "If you can do it, Luo Chen will not appear in the Lan family for a year. Moreover, I will give you the qualifications to compete for the position of the young master of the Lan family." Rho alpha d alpha n nu data theta nu epsilon. Mayan Chujio thought about it and it made sense. To others, 10 against 30 was very dangerous. To her, it was not a big deal at all. Moreover, the fact that that piece of trash, Lan Luochen, could not appear was simply too much to her liking. Just thinking about that crazy person gave her a headache. Moreover, if she could obtain the qualifications to compete for the position of the young master of the Lan family, it would be much more convenient for her to do things in the future. Thus, this fellow said with a smile, "Old ancestor, look at what you said. I'm a member of the Lan family, so I naturally have to listen to your arrangements. As long as it's for our Lan family, little Gio will go through fire and water without any hesitation." The corners of the old ancestor's eyes twitched. This troublemaker's skin was really thick. "In that case, go back and prepare." Yun Chuzhou walked out of the old ancestor's study room and saw Lan Luofang come up to her with a sad face. She said with a sobbing voice, "Little Jiu, what did the old ancestor say to you? Did he agree to you not going? What should I do? Last time, I was lucky enough to enter the top 10. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have won a single match." Yun Chuzhou patted her shoulder. "It's all right. I'll take care of you and guarantee your safety. Besides, you might even find some good stuff. Little Jiu, don't joke around. We're really doomed this time." Lan Luofang felt that Yun Chuzhou was most likely crazy. Even if she had a belly full of bad ideas, she wouldn't have been able to deal with the combined forces of the Mu family, Qi family, and Zhuang family. This time, she was really going to die. Yun Chuzhou rolled her eyes and said, "All right, even if you're right, we're going to die. Is it useful for you to cry here? If you have this kind of kung fu, you might as well ask your mother for more life-saving items. For example, talismans, spirit tools, and the like." Hearing that, Lan Luofang became even more worried. She glanced at Yun Chuzhou and said, "Little Jiu, don't tell me you don't know that not only is the land of God's relic forbidden from flying, but talismans cannot be used?" Yun Chuzhou, damn old fox, he didn't tell her that she couldn't use talismans. Was it too late to regret now? Who cares if he can use them or not, you have to go no matter what. Just accept your fate. He Xinjiu saw that Lan Luofang was crying endlessly and said in a bad mood. Lan Luofang also knew that there was no turning back. No one dared to disobey the old ancestor's words. Even if she didn't want to go, she had to go. Yun Chuzhou and Lan Luofang had just left the ancestral residence when they saw Lan Luocheng and the others waiting for her with an unfriendly expression. "Yun Chuzhou, if you still have self-awareness, immediately tell the ancestor to resign from the position of captain. Otherwise, don't blame us for not being polite," Lan Luocheng said with a gloomy face. Lan Luomu and the others also glared at Yun Chuzhou. Even if her current spiritual power was not bad, how could she, a foreigner from a low-level continent, be above them? Yun Chuzhou snorted coldly. "Do you think I'm willing to bring a bunch of pigs to participate in the trial? If you have the guts, go and talk to the patriarch. If you don't, get lost." Lan Luocheng and the rest were almost angered to death. "Who are you calling pigs?" Lan Luocheng wanted to make a move immediately, but he saw Yun Chuzhou turn around and run into the ancestral residence. As she ran, she shouted, "All of you are bullying me. I will go and find the old ancestor to make justice for me. I will beat all of you to death." Rho alpha d alpha n nu omd, eta theta nu epsilon. This damn Yun Chuzhou relied on the old ancestor's favor and was practically going to heaven. They did not believe that the old ancestor would listen to her one-sided words and really punish them. However, a moment later, housekeeper Su followed the smug Yun Chuzhou out. "Young masters, the old ancestor has ordered that from now until the end of the trial, anyone who dares to disobey the orders of the young miss will be severely punished." Everyone was so angry that they almost vomited blood. What kind of bewitching potion did this troublemaker give the old ancestor? Why did the old ancestor favor this troublemaker so much? Yun Chuzhou crossed her shoulders, shook her feet, and said arrogantly, "Did you hear that? Now get out of my way. I'm going back home." Everyone was angry but didn't dare to say anything. They could only make way and watch He Xinjiu swagger away with Lan Luofang. After walking for a distance, Lan Luofang said worriedly, "Little Jiu, now that you've offended them, I'm afraid that they will harm you if you enter the land of God relic." Yun Chuzhou snorted, "Do you think that they will let me go even if I don't do this?" Lan Luofang thought about it and agreed. Those people had always treated Yun Chuzhou as a thorn in their flesh. Even if she gave in, they might not let her go. Thinking about it, she was even more uncertain about the upcoming divine relic trial. Perhaps they were not killed by the Mu family in the end, but by their own people. When they reached the third room, Lan Luofang went to find Jia Shi, while Yun Chuzhou returned to her own courtyard. As soon as they entered the room, the little silver snake asked, "Are you really going to participate in the divine relic trial? Actually, if you insist on not going, that old thing might not force you to go." Yun Chujo chuckled. "Are you showing concern for me?" The little silver snake said awkwardly, "This venerable self is worried about my safety. After all, if you enter the land of God relics, this venerable self will have to follow you in." Hearing his words, Yun Chujia's heart began to pound. The land of God relics could only allow people with extreme spirit cultivation to enter. She did not know if she could bring the pretty boy in. If she could not bring him in, it would be difficult to handle. The small silver snake seemed to have seen through her doubts and immediately snorted, "My cultivation is now damaged. I should be able to enter the land of God relic." Yun Chujo was still worried. She thought that if the gigolo could not enter, she would not go in. After all, nothing was more important than the safety of the gigolo. The little silver snake saw that she didn't speak and said, "You haven't answered my question. Why didn't you reject that old thing?" Yun Chujo sighed. "Although I insisted that the old fox wouldn't do anything to me, I'm still in the Lan family's territory. It's too easy for him to scheme against me. Moreover, the conditions he proposed were very tempting. It's not like you don't know that Lan Luochen is a psychopath. It's better not to meet him if possible." The small silver snake's vertical pupils flashed with a faint light. He had lost the memories related to Yun Chujo, so he didn't know about the entanglement between Lan Luochen and Yun Chujo. Previously, when he heard the Lan family's ancestor mention Lan Luochen, he had some doubts. Now that he heard that Yun Chujo was so annoyed with Lan Luochen, although he was slightly relieved, he still hated Lan Luochen. This was because he could tell from Yun Chujia's words that Lan Luochen had been pestering the ugly girl. Otherwise, the ugly girl would not have agreed to participate in the divine relic trial just because of this condition. Seeing that Di Baiming did not say anything, Yun Chujo thought that he had nothing more to ask, so she placed him on the table and then pondered over the next step. Alpha D Alpha, Eta Theta Nu Epsilon, Captain, Yun Chujo, 5th level of the Extreme Spirit Realm. Big Room, Lan Luocheng, 5th level of the Extreme Spirit Realm. Lan Luoyong, 4th level of the Extreme Spirit Realm. Lan Luoyen, 4th level of the Extreme Spirit Realm. Second Room, Lan Luamu, 5th level of the Extreme Spirit Realm. Lan Luaji, 4th level of the Extreme Spirit Realm. Lan Luoping, 4th level of the Extreme Spirit Realm. Third Room, Lan Luohan, 5th level of the Extreme Spirit Realm. Lan Luoshan, 4th level of the Extreme Spirit Realm. Lan Luofang, 3rd level of the Extreme Spiritual Realm. To be fair, these people's progress could be considered to be rapid. After all, compared to half a year ago, they had basically broken through one level, especially Lan Luoyen, who had broken through 2 levels. But even so, according to the information she got from Yuan Ji, in terms of strength, the other 3 families were much stronger than the Lan family, not to mention that the other 3 families would form an alliance. That old fox still wanted her to lead this group of idiots to the first place. That was really daring. However, the most important thing now was to think of a way to control these people, so that they would not turn against each other before they could do anything. Yun Chujo rolled her eyes and immediately had an idea. She smiled sinisterly. 2 days later, it was time to set off. The Lan family naturally could not let these juniors go alone, so they sent Elder Ning, Elder Tua, and Lan Dimeo to lead the team. They also brought hundreds of guards. To be honest, Lan Dimeo did not really want to go, because the situation was tense now. Who knew if the other 3 families would be so desperate that they would directly take action? However, they did not dare to disobey the old ancestors' orders, so they could only brace themselves and bring everyone to the trial site. Compared to everyone's worries, Hei Shinjo did not care at all. She ate, drank, and even went up to Elder Tua to show off. Although Elder Tua basically did not respond to Yun Chujo, this was enough to surprise everyone. After all, Elder Tua's status in the Lan family was very special, and his personality was quite strange. Even Lan Di Meo and the others did not buy it. They did not expect that he could actually tolerate Yun Chujia's clamor in front of him. Lan Luoshan looked at Yun Chujio jumping around, and her lowered eyes were filled with hatred. Yun Chujio, your jumping will soon come to an end. Your time of death has come. Although Lan Luocheng and the others did not like Yun Chujio in any way, they did not dare to say anything because of Elder Tua and the other two. Anyway, they had already made up their minds. Once they were inside, they would leave Yun Chujio and Lan Luofang, who were a burden, behind. As for the captain, they could go to hell. On this day, Elder Tua suddenly took out a porcelain bottle and distributed a pill to Lan Luocheng and the others. Eat it. It's good for you. Although the others didn't understand, they didn't dare to say anything. They all swallowed it. However, there was no reaction after swallowing it. Yun Chujio winked at Elder Tua. Elder Tua ignored her, but a faint smile appeared on his lips. On this day, the flying spirit tool arrived at the trial site. The people from the Mu, Qi, and Zhuang families had already arrived early. The people from the three families looked at the people from the Lan family with hostility. Mu Zian originally thought that Lan Luochen would also participate this time, so she could take the opportunity to have a good talk with him. Who would have thought that after scanning the crowd, she did not see Lan Luchen's figure? Mu Zian could not help but feel very disappointed. When her gaze swept past Yun Chujio, a killing intent instantly flashed. It was good that cousin Luo Chen did not come. She could just kill this bitch. Rho Alpha D Alpha and Nu Omotha, everyone had their own plans in their hearts. The elders of the four families still pretended to exchange pleasantries. However, their words carried a tinge of sarcasm. Brother Lan, the cultivation of the juniors participating in this trial does not seem to be very high. The highest is only at the 5th level of the extreme spiritual realm. Could it be that the juniors with high cultivation did not come? Mu Kelu of the Mu family said with a fake smile. Qi Anqing of the Qi family said with a strange tone, Brother Mu, you can't say that. Doesn't the Lan family still have Lan Luochen? Could it be that the ancestor of the Lan family is afraid of danger and has hidden himself? The Lan family isn't like our three families, which have many talents. It's not easy for them to have an outstanding one, so they naturally have to be careful. Zhuang Ruhai of the Zhuang family also said with a bit of ridicule. Lan Dimeo's expression became even more gloomy. He had just roughly glanced at the other three families. They were indeed stronger than the Lan family. This time, the Lan family would probably suffer heavy losses. None of these children would be able to come out alive. He really did not understand why the ancestor of the Lan family insisted on participating in this trial. Wasn't this looking for trouble for himself? Could it be that the ancestor really felt that Yun Chujio, that troublemaker, had the ability to turn the tide? Although that troublemaker had a belly full of bad water and had some ability, with the disparity in strength, could she do it? Alpha D Alpha, Eta Theta Nu Epsilon, if the Lan family suffered a heavy blow this time, it would definitely be of great benefit to their next plan. Sooner or later, the Lan family would be divided among them. Yun Chujio didn't pay attention to their conversation. What she was worried about now was whether the little silver snake could enter the land of God relics. Chapter 50:11, Wang Zhu. Since it was not yet time for the secret realm to open, everyone could only wait on the spot and gather in 2s and 3s to chat. At this moment, Mu Zian gracefully walked over. Lan Luoyen had the best relationship with her, so she went up to greet her with some flattery. Lan Luoyen wanted to curry favor with Mu Zian. This way, if there was a conflict inside, Mu Zian could also save her life. Mu Zian smiled and chatted with her for a while. Then, she changed the topic. I wonder who is the leader of your Lan family this time. Lan Luoyen curled her lips and said, Sister Zian, I'm not afraid of you making fun of me. Our leader this time is Yun Chujio. Mu Zian was stunned. She never thought that the Lan family would actually let Yun Chujio be the leader. At this moment, she noticed that Yun Chujia's spiritual power had actually soared to the 5th level of the extreme spiritual realm. She had actually broken through to the 5th level in such a short time. How did she do it? Mu Zian could not help but feel a little jealous and fearful. Although she had just broken through to the 7th level of the extreme spiritual realm a few days ago, if she allowed this bitch to continue jumping around, perhaps her spiritual power would surpass hers. At that time, wouldn't there be even less ways to deal with her? This time, she had to kill her. Fortunately, the 3 families had already reached an agreement. After entering, they would find an opportunity to kill the people of the Lan family. Yun Chujio, you're dead meat. Mu Zian came back to her senses and said with a gentle smile, so your captain is Yun Chujio. In that case, I wish your Lan family the best. Lan Luoyen pursed her lips and wanted to say something. However, if she said something disheartening at this time, she might be blamed by others. Therefore, she swallowed what she wanted to say. However, from the bottom of her heart, she felt that the Lan family was doomed this time. Putting everything else aside, their team leader would not be able to compete with the other 3 families. The Mu family's team leader was Mu Zian, 7th level of the extreme spirit realm. The Zhuang family's team leader was Zhuang Shichen, 7th level of the extreme spirit realm. The Qi family's team leader was Qi Tianhui, 7th level of the extreme spirit realm. No matter which one of them was stronger than Yun Chujio, who was at the 5th level of the extreme spirit realm, not to mention that the other team members also had higher spiritual powers than the Lan family. While the 2 of them were chatting, Lan Dimeo and the other 3 called everyone to gather and read out some things to take note of. First, the divine relic trial lasted for 1 month. Flying was forbidden inside, and the use of talisman seals was forbidden. Second, the ranking was based on the number of false pearls in the divine relic land. It was rumored that the divine relic land was transformed from the last city that the god had lived in. For some unknown reason, there were many things that looked like demonic beasts inside, so everyone named them false pearls. These paranoia beasts had brutal temperaments, strange appearances, and different innate abilities. However, there was a kind of shiny bead inside their bodies, which they called the paranoia bead. This kind of paranoia bead had the effect of calming the qi and concentrating the mind. Wearing it for a long time could eliminate the inner demons, so it was very precious. As for the 3rd rule, it was basically negligible. Because the main idea of the 3rd rule was that friendship was first, and the competition was second, so no one should kill each other. After the rules were announced, it was time to open the enchantment. Lan Dimeo and the other 3 took out their jade tokens. After forming a seal, a transparent enchantment appeared in front of everyone. Everyone entered the enchantment one by one. Yun Chujio was worried about whether the small silver snake could enter, so she was the last one. This guy first put the sleeve bag containing the small silver snake into the enchantment. Seeing that there was nothing unusual, he walked into the enchantment. When Yun Chujio was teleported in, she found that the 9 members of the Lan family were surrounded by the other 3 families. They actually wanted to make a move now. The faces of the members of the Lan family were full of nervousness and fear. They had never thought that the other 3 families would actually choose to make a move as soon as they entered the mystic realm. 10 versus 30, they had no chance of winning at all. Yun Chujio saw the situation and laughed lightly. What? You want to attack now? Fine, let's do it. Lan Luoyen and the others were furious. This Yun Chujio was not in her right mind, right? She actually urged them to attack. Alpha D Alpha Eta Theta Nu Epsilon Yun Chujio sneered and said, the people of the Lan family, listen to this captain. In a while, whichever family of the 3 families attacks first, we will focus on attacking that family's people. If we can't recover, they can forget about it. The expressions of Mu Zian, Zhuang Shichen, and Qi Tianhui changed slightly. They were not stupid, so they naturally understood the hidden meaning in Yun Chujio's words. Whichever family made the first move, the Lan family would fight with whichever family. The family that made the first move would suffer more serious casualties compared to the other two families. In this way, not only would the results of the trial be affected, but the divine relic land was very dangerous. Losing one person would increase the danger. Therefore, for the time being, none of the three families wanted to make the first move. Seeing this, Yun Chujio said faintly, "If I were you, I would wait until the trial is about to end before making a move. After all, in a sense, we are all in the same boat now. The wild beasts in the divine relic land are extremely ferocious. Moreover, it is said that there are many strange and terrifying things. Instead of wasting your spiritual power on us, why don't you think about how to keep your lives?" Mu Zian and the other two looked at each other again. For a moment, they were hesitant. Rho Alpha D Alpha and Nu Omian Chujio waved her claws at Lan Luo Yen and the others. "What are you all standing there for? Follow me to the front to take a look." Although Lan Luo Yen and the others were dissatisfied with Yun Chujio and looked down on her, they were extremely obedient at this moment and followed behind Yun Chujio. Mu Zian clenched her fists but ultimately did not give the order to attack. That bitch Yun Chujio was right. The most important thing now was to protect themselves. As for the Lan family, they could wait until the end of the trial to deal with them. Moreover, the Zhuang family and Qi family might not be that trustworthy. If their Mu family suffered a heavy blow, the other two families might take advantage of it. Zhuang Shichen and Qi Tianhui obviously thought the same, so they did not give the order to attack. Therefore, Yun Chujio swaggered out of the encirclement with the Lan family members. The Lan family members wiped the cold sweat from their foreheads. Some of them had a slightly better impression of Yun Chujio. After all, if it were not for her words, there would be a bloody battle. Seeing that the other three families had no intention to kill them, Lan Luoyen snorted and said, "Yun Chujio, don't think that your words worked. I don't think the Mu family intended to do anything. They were just trying to scare us." Lan Luoshan said gently, "Luoyen, it's inappropriate for you to say that. Although the three families are trying to scare us, little sister Jio's words also played a role." Yun Chujio turned around and looked at the two of them. "You can either shut up or let me cut off your tongues. It's your choice." Lan Luoyen immediately shouted in exasperation, "Yun Chujio, do you really think you're so great? Let me tell you, there's no ancestor to support you in this divine relic land. If you don't know your place, the one who will die will be you." Before Yun Chujio could speak, Lan Luomu spoke unhappily, "Shut up. Can't you see that the three families have already caught up? If there's another internal conflict, none of us will survive." Yun Chujio shrugged her shoulders and didn't say anything. This Lan Luomu wasn't stupid to the extreme. Lan Luoyen was startled by Lan Luma's vicious gaze and didn't dare to speak anymore. Lan Lushan's expression did not change, as if nothing had happened. The divine relic land was actually a grand city. According to the people who had entered before, the grandeur of the city was beyond their imagination. Yun Chujio and the rest were only outside the city. It would take them at least half a day to enter the city. Mu Zian and the others had already caught up, but they had no intention of attacking. It was obvious that they had reached a consensus that they would not attack the Lan family for the time being. Even so, the members of the Lan family were on their guard. Who knew if they would attack them? Alpha D Alpha, Eta Theta Nu Epsilon Mth crisis was temporarily resolved, so Yun Chujio had the intention to look around. The surroundings were very barren. There were only some jagged rocks on the ground, and there was not even a single wild grass. It gave people a desolate and dilapidated feeling. Fortunately, according to the records, the distance between the barrier and the city was not dangerous, so everyone was not so nervous. Clouds and mist lingered in the distance, so everyone did not see the so-called magnificent city. However, half a day later, when the clouds and mist dispersed, everyone saw the city in the distance, and they were all dumbfounded. Rho Alpha D Alpha and Nu Omo, my God. The city in front of them had completely exceeded their knowledge, because this city was not only so big that they could not see the end of it, but it actually spiraled up layer by layer, as if it was soaring into the sky. Oh my God, this was too shocking. At this moment, Zhuang Shichen said with some doubt, I heard from the elders in my family that although this divine relic land was originally spiraling up, it was said that when they came before, there were only 3 layers. But I think there should be at least 18 layers now. What's going on? Could it be that something has happened? His words caused a resonance. After all, this divine relic land opened once every 30 years, and many people had entered before. Qi Tianhui smiled and said, Brother Zhuang, you're worrying too much. The more layers there are in the city, the more treasures and inheritances we can obtain. This is a great thing. Zhuang Shichen thought about it and it made sense. Moreover, they had no other choice but to enter the city. This was because although the barrier at the entrance was outside the city, the barrier at the exit was inside the city after a month. Even if there was something wrong, they had to enter the city. Everyone discussed as they continued on their journey. Finally, they reached the outside of the city. The land of divine relics was what outsiders called it. This city had an extremely majestic name, the Supreme City. These 4 words were written in ancient characters. Although the ancient characters had basically been lost, the frequency of these 4 words was relatively high, so everyone could still recognize them. Yun Chuzhou looked at the 4 words and thought that the god who originally lived here had a sense of superiority. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come up with such a name. However, things were hard to predict. Even if it used to be very glorious, it had now become the past. Everyone praised and discussed for a while, and then their gazes fell on the huge city gate. At a glance, everyone couldn't help but exclaim, Heavens! Heavens! This city gate is actually made of 10,000-year-old dark steel. Everyone's eyes revealed greed and shock. Even the palm-sized 10,000-year-old dark steel was in existence that people would go crazy for outside, but it was actually only used to make a city gate here. It was simply a reckless waste of heaven's gift. If they could keep this 10,000-year-old dark steel, heavens, it would be an earth-shattering wealth. However, everyone could only think about it. After all, the 10,000-year-old dark steel was extremely sturdy and could not be cut. Moreover, the weight of the 10,000-year-old dark steel was extremely shocking. They had no way of taking this city gate away. Hei Xinzhou touched her chin. This was really a good thing. If the little flame was powerful in the future, she could forge the 2 city gates into many puppets. Just thinking about it would be beautiful. Of course, this fellow was only thinking about it. She had no way of keeping the 2 city gates. At this moment, the 2 city gates were closed. Everyone looked at each other. How could they enter? At this moment, the city gates slowly opened. There seemed to be an ethereal celestial music coming from inside. Everyone could not help but have a misconception. It was as if they were not here for the trial but had already cultivated and entered the immortal realm. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and then they excitedly entered the Supreme City. Yun Chuzhou stayed at the back and slowly walked into the Supreme City. The moment she entered, she heard everyone's exclamations. Previously, they had only seen the part that was as tall as the clouds. Now that they were inside, they were even more shocked. They were currently on an extremely wide street. The ground was paved with huge bluestones, and there were exquisite engravings on the bluestones. Rho Alpha D Alpha N Nu looking into the distance, they saw exquisite pavilions on both sides of the street. They did not know whether they were residences or shops. Although it was desolate outside the city, it was as if time had stopped inside the Supreme City. The ground was as clean as new, and the pavilions did not have the slightest bit of decadence. If they did not know that this was only a divine relic, they might really think that there were gods living here. After everyone was shocked, they could not wait to rush forward. There might be treasures or inheritances in each of the pavilions. Naturally, the earlier they entered, the better. Lan Luoyan and the others also had greedy looks on their faces. Just as they were about to rush forward, they heard Yun Chuzhou faintly say, if you are not afraid of death, then chase after them. If you listen to me, then obediently stay here and watch the show. Alpha D Alpha, Eta Theta Nu Epsilon, Theta M. I don't know if there are any powerful wild beasts, but if you and the other 3 families fight for the treasures, they won't have so many concerns and will directly attack. Since I've said so much, it's up to you. Anyway, I'm not going in, Yun Chujio said indifferently. Lan Luoyen immediately stopped her footsteps when she heard that, obviously afraid. Lan Luofang naturally followed Yun Chujio's lead. She asked, Little Jiu, what you said makes sense. But if we don't go in, where are we going? The corners of Yun Chujio's mouth curled up. Well, wait here. It's also good to let them explore the way. Chapter 50:16 The night scene. Lan Luomu and the others looked at each other. Their original plan was to get rid of Yun Chujio and Lan Luofang once they entered the city. However, after what happened earlier, they were a little hesitant, so they didn't say anything and tacitly agreed with Yun Chujio's decision. Therefore, the Lan family members waited near the city gate, ready to see what the other 3 families were going through. An hour later, people came out from the pavilions by the side of the street one after another, all of them beaming with joy. Ha ha ha. I actually got a low-grade immortal artifact. Although it's not a high-grade one, it's already very good to have such a harvest as soon as I entered. Congratulations, congratulations. I also found a heaven-grade herb that's already extinct outside. The land of God relics really lives up to its reputation. Yes, our harvest this time will definitely be very rich. No wonder the family members are all fighting to participate in this trial. Almost everyone who came out of the trial had gained something, and they were all beaming with joy. Lan Luoyen glared at Yun Chujio when she saw this. Look, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you stopping us, we would all be rich. Yun Chujio glanced at her. I'm not tying your legs. If you want to go, then go. You. Lan Luoyen was almost beaten to death. She wanted to go, but she was afraid of being attacked by the other 3 families. Yun Chujio stretched and said faintly, think about it. You want to die, or you want to get rich? Anyway, I want to die. As for those treasures, I'm not greedy, and I won't take the risk to snatch them. Everyone from the Lan family had different expressions, but no one said anything else. The people from the other 3 families went along the street to plunder the pavilions one by one, and they all gained a lot. When they saw that the Lan family didn't dare to fight with them, they all looked proud. As time passed, the other 3 families went further and further away, and they were almost out of the sight of the people from the Lan family. At this time, the sky gradually darkened. Lan Luoyen anxiously circled a few times and said, Yun Chujio, what do you mean? Don't tell me we have to wait at the city gate all the time. Do you know that the enchantment outside might be in those palaces hovering above? If we can't find the exact location, we can only be trapped here. It's the same as before. If you want to leave, no one will stop you. Lan Luoyen was so angry that she was twitching. She wanted to leave, but she didn't dare to leave alone. Yun Chujio took out a meat bun and started to eat it. Of course, she didn't forget to put one in her sleeve pocket to prevent a certain person from starving. Everyone was also hungry, but most of them ate fasting pills, so it was more convenient for them to train outside. Yun Chujio took out a talisman and a formation plate to try it out, and sure enough, there was no effect at all. She tried to release the puppet again, but it did not succeed. This fellow calculated in her heart. Although this supreme city looked very high and mighty, she would not be naive enough to think that this was a good place to pick up scraps. She did not ignore what Zhuang Shichen had said earlier. Previously, there were only 3 floors in those spiraling places, but now there were so many more floors. It might not be a good thing. At this moment, Lan Luoyen and the others cried out in surprise. As it turned out, as night fell, the entire supreme city was resplendent. Every building actually emitted a lustrous glow. It was very beautiful and magnificent. Chapter 50:17 was also idle Lan Luofang, who was beside Yun Chuzhou, praised, "Oh my God, this is too beautiful." As expected of the supreme city, the night here is even more beautiful than the day. Yun Chuzhou did not think much of this. After all, she had seen the night scene of the modern city, so this was nothing. However, for Lan Luofang and the others, they were really shocked. Yun Chuzhou told them about the arrangements for the night shift, but no one had any objections. At first, everyone was worried about what would happen at night, but after a night, everything went as usual, and their originally tense hearts relaxed a little. After daybreak, Lan Luoyen was making a racket and rushing on her way. They were here for the trial, not to meditate. She didn't want to stay at the city gate all the time. Since nothing happened last night, everyone's thoughts became active. Hence, they all agreed. Lan Luoshan saw that Yun Chuzhou did not express her stance. She said gently, "Little sister Jiu, if you are afraid, you can wait for us here. We will come and look for you after we find the exit enchantment." Yun Chuzhou curled her lips. "All right. If you insist on going, I will wait for you here." Lan Lushan's eyes flashed with viciousness when she heard this. Who would come back to look for her? She would just wait here to die. With Lan Luoyen and Lan Luoshan taking the lead, most of the people immediately got up and prepared to leave. Only Lan Luofang, Lan Luomu, and Lan Luofang did not move. Lan Luofang was He Xinjia's little follower, so she naturally would not leave. Lan Luomu had suffered a few losses from Yun Chuzhou. He felt that since Yun Chuzhou did not leave, she must have her own plans, so after weighing the pros and cons, he decided to stay. As for Lan Luozi's thoughts, Yun Chuzhou was an iron rooster who did not give out a single cent. She was more greedy than anyone else. However, she did not pick up any scraps. This meant that there must be something wrong. Lan Luoyen and the rest were focused on picking up scraps. Hence, they tried to persuade them. When they saw that Lan Luomu and Lan Luoji had no intention of leaving, they decided to ignore the two of them and quickly rushed forward. Although they didn't dare to fight with the Mu family, they might find something unexpected if they searched through the pavilions that they had already looted. Yun Chuzhou looked at Lan Luomu and Lan Luoji and smiled. "Come, we have nothing to do. Let's play cards." Lan Luomu, Lan Luoji, how dare you? You still have the mood to play cards at this time. However, in the end, they could not resist Yun Chujia's urging and the four of them began to play cards. The little silver snake in Yun Chujia's sleeve pocket was not in a good mood at this moment. This was because ever since he left the Lan family, he had never had the chance to speak to Yun Chuzhou in order to avoid being discovered. Now that he heard her and Lan Luomu chatting and laughing, his heart felt sour. Moreover, ever since he entered the Supreme City, he had inexplicably disliked this place. A certain honored warrior was in a bad mood and started to fiddle around in his sleeve pocket in an attempt to attract He Xinjia's attention. However, He Xinjiu was having fun and only poked his head with her finger, ignoring him. A certain honored warrior felt even more depressed, but there was nothing he could do. He could only sulk alone in his sleeve pocket. Lan Luoyen and the others originally thought that the Mu family had already ransacked the pavilions and that they would not be able to find anything valuable. However, they did not expect that they would actually reap such a bountiful harvest. Everyone's faces were filled with joy. It seemed that opportunities were not something that could be snatched away. Chapter 50:18 Wild Beasts. At this moment, Mu Zian and the others had already turned onto another street. The pavilions on both sides of this street were more exquisite than before, and their harvest was also more bountiful. Everyone was overjoyed. It seemed that their luck was really good. Not only did they not encounter the wild beasts, but they also obtained so many treasures. Soon, another day passed, and night fell once again. Mu Zian and the others were still somewhat vigilant, so they did not continue to plunder at night. Instead, they camped on the streets. The night gradually deepened, and everyone began to feel drowsy. This was when the people in charge of keeping watch were shocked to discover that the bright light had disappeared, and the entire supreme city had fallen into darkness. Immediately, they felt a little panicked and hurriedly woke everyone up. Everyone also felt that something was wrong. They all took out their illuminating items and stared at their surroundings vigilantly. He he he, he he he. Suddenly, the crisp laughter of a woman could be heard from their surroundings. However, this laughter was especially terrifying in the dark night. Everyone knew that there were no humans in the divine relic land. Why would there be the laughter of a woman? Just as everyone was panicking, the pavilion closest to them lit up, and a beautiful young lady walked out. The young lady's smile was very charming and cute, and some of the men in the group could not help but look a little infatuated. The young lady said softly, "Everyone, since we are already at the entrance of our Jia residence, why don't you come in and have a seat? Why do you have to sleep outside?" A few men could not help but take a few steps forward. At this moment, Zhuang Shichen shouted sternly, "Be careful. There's no one here. There must be something fishy about this girl." The few men were startled by Zhuang Shichen's shout and immediately retreated in fear. "That's right, there shouldn't be any living people here. This young girl was definitely not human." The young lady stomped her feet delicately. "This young master's words hurt my heart too much. I invited all of you to be my guests out of goodwill, yet you guys didn't appreciate it. Since that's the case, then I can only use force." After saying that, the young lady walked towards the crowd. Everyone was very scared and involuntarily retreated. However, they never expected that an identical young lady would appear behind them. She also walked towards them delicately. Immediately, everyone released their spiritual beasts and attacked the two young ladies. However, the two young ladies mysteriously disappeared. Everyone became more and more fearful. Sometimes, powerful enemies that they could see were not scary. What made people fearful was the enemies that were hidden. At this moment, there was a strange laughter coming from the surroundings. The courtyard that the girl had invited them into had turned into a species that they had never seen before. Everyone looked at that thing in fear. It was very huge, almost the size of a pavilion. Its body looked like a huge toad. Its body was covered in a foul-smelling mucus. It had two heads and both looked like the girl from before, but they were magnified several times. A thought suddenly flashed through everyone's mind. A wild beast. This was the legendary wild beast. One of the heads of the wild beast said in a hoarse voice, "Sister, it's been a long time since we've eaten fresh human meat. We can have a full meal today." The other head said softly, "Sister, it's still the same old rules. The man belongs to me, and the woman belongs to you." You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.